I want to show you some specialty shapes that Illustrator can draw for you. If you have this flyout with the rectangle tool and the other tools, you can close it. Just click that little X there. And over here, you have the line segment tool. And if you click and hold, you get a flyout and you have a bunch of other tools. I'm going to click this little bar at the end so I get this thing coming out here. The first tool I want to show you is just a plain old line segment tool. And it draws a line segment. Really nothing all that exciting. You could make it go in any direction. If you hold the Shift key down, you can constrain to multiples of 45 degrees. So if you want a line that's perfectly horizontal, perfectly 45 degrees, or perfectly vertical, you don't have to guess. That's what the Shift key is going to do for you. You don't have to keep it at whatever stroke color. As long as you have the stroke color here in the front, click it if you need to. You can change the color. Maybe I'll go over here to the swatches panel and I'll make it a dark blue. And the line segment that I had selected becomes blue, and of course any new line segments also become that same dark blue. In addition to the Shift key to constrain it, you can hold down the Option key on the Mac or the Alt key in Windows, and that will draw the line from the center point outwards in all directions, regardless of what angle you're drawing it at. It also has a little dialog box, so if you want to choose these settings exactly when you have that line segment tool active, just click somewhere on the page. I'll click maybe over here, and now you can choose the length, the angle. Don't worry about this fill line. We'll talk about filling the blob brush later on. And let's put the angle maybe like that. Click OK, and now you have your new line segment. Okay, let's do something maybe a little more interesting. Scroll down here on the page, and I'll use the Arc tool. And when you draw with the Arc tool, you can draw an arc one way or the other way. When you're drawing, if you tap the up arrow key, the cursor key on your keyboard, you can make this a little sharper, or tap the down arrow key, you can make it a little wider. Also, you can click on the page, and now you can change those settings here, what they call the X or the Y axis, and a few other things here. Maybe this time I'll make it closed, and do I want that slope to be up or down? And maybe I want it filled. Now, right now, I don't have any fill color, so I'll just leave that blank and click OK. And now I can fill that. I'll click on the foreground color box, and I'll just pick a color here. There we go. And now when I click and I decide I want to fill the arc, I'm going to leave it closed here, and I'll increase the slope and click OK. Now you see the slope is open. So positive is curving up, and negative curvature is curving inwards. And if you click the spiral tool here and you drag, you can draw a spiral. Hey, you know, it's a lot easier doing it this way than if you try to create a spiral manually by drawing circles and then slicing them and putting them back together. It's a mess. When you're drawing it, if you tap the up arrow cursor key on the keyboard, you can increase the number of curls on the inside only, but not on the outside. Tap the down arrow and you can get fewer curls. If you simply click instead of drawing, now you can choose the radius, the decay rate, and how many segments there are. Also, do you want it clockwise or counterclockwise? I should say that the decay rate is how many curls on the inside do you get. So if you have a smaller number, you have fewer curls. Bigger number, you have more curls. Let's take a look here at the rectangular grid tool. Scroll down here, and when you draw, basically you're getting a whole bunch of rectangles. And as you're drawing that, and you can break those apart if you want, as you're drawing that, if you tap the up arrow key, you can get more rows. Tap the down arrow key, you can get fewer rows. Or what Illustrator is really looking at is really not so much rows and columns, but how many vertical lines you have on the inside, how many horizontal lines you have on the inside. In fact, if you take the mouse pointer and just click, you can tell it how many horizontal dividers and vertical dividers you want, and what's the overall width and overall height. And click, and you got that. Let's delete that. And finally, you have polar coordinates. That's the polar grid tool. So you could draw a grid. I really don't know why you would want one that's stretched out of proportion, but maybe you might. Could be a fancy design, I guess, if you're not using it as actual graph paper. And if you click, you can choose how many concentric dividers, that is, how many rings do you want. Radial dividers, that's how many spikes out do you want. Maybe I want 8 concentric rings, and maybe I'll take, let's say, 10 spikes coming out. Click OK. I don't want it at an angle, though. I'll just draw it like this. I'll hold the Shift key down, and with the Shift key held down, you'll get a thinner line there. So now you can see there are 10 spikes and there are 8 rings. This is useful if you need to draw a graph where the two coordinates are angle and direction. I use graph paper like this all the time when I was taking algebra trigonometry back in high school, way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. If you're not doing algebra and trigonometry, maybe you want to draw a burner for a stove or maybe a spider web. I don't know, but it's kind of a fun tool to play around with.